All right, there we go. Wasn't sure. Everything's moving kind of slowly for me. I don't know if I have a bad connection. It's really odd. I shouldn't have a bad connection. I thought I had a good quality internet service, but you never know. It seems a little skippy on my end. I am John Rowland, and this is I Was Wrong. This is not only going to be a weekly live stream, but will also be a section on my Natural Universal Spirit Substack page where I'm going to write little articles about how I was wrong about a lot of stuff and how the more I say I was wrong, the closer I get to being right. At least that's what it seems. It's a strange paradox, as is this world that we live in. Many of you may be watching on Natural Freedom League platforms, either on Facebook or on YouTube, and then also the Natural Universal Spirit, or the NUS, or the People of the NUS on Facebook, and the Natural Universal Spirit on YouTube. Have a website for both of those platforms as well, naturalfreedomleague.com. And then we also have naturaluniversalspirit.com. However, I don't know if that's actually published. Um, I can see it, but when I typed in the URL, it didn't come up at all. So, um, hey, Green Mountain Girl. Hello, a good friend. Hope everything is going well, Green Mountain Girl. We need to talk soon. Thanks for saying hello. I appreciate it. Um, so yeah, many of you know me from Natural Freedom League, which started with me going out on Mondays. I called them Moral Law Mondays, and I was actually going out on the streets and giving out information about natural law to people. And a lot of my rhetoric is based around the natural law community, the natural law faction of the truth movement. um, really at the heart of that is where I got my understanding and philosophy of what natural law is, and how it was based on objective morality, and this morality that we could all come to agreement with. There's 7 basic uh, harms that you could commit against people, and that if we all stopped harming others and behaved morally, then we could create a more free world. And it's not so much when I say I was wrong that I disagree with any of that. If anything, it's a transition or an evolution of how I'm looking at it, and seeing that it's a little bit more nuanced than just telling people, hey, you need to behave more morally. um, you need to follow these steps to be more moral. Obviously, when we go out into the community to talk to people, or even when we come online, um, you realize that people are at so many different levels. And to some people, if you just go up to them and just start telling them that, it's all about morality and you have to, behave more morally, it just sounds religious to people. And also, they just don't necessarily have any type of spiritual connection. And so they don't necessarily look at the world that way. They look at government, the institution of government, as a necessary evil. And so one of the things that you know led me to where I am now is, once I had grasped the natural law material and was sort of teaching it myself, I still had a lot of questions about it. And I think that one of those questions was the question of objective morality versus subjective morality, and what that actually means. And as I looked at the world, and I thought, okay, so if objective morality is a real thing, then why do these people who appear to be causing so much harm live to be, ripe old ages, and they their whole family goes on? I mean, we call it intergenerational mind control. So how come these families are able to pass on this information and continue to be doing harm to people, and the universe not take any action against them? And so the common argument against this is that they somehow deflect their karmic consequence by tricking all of us to behave immorally. But I would imagine that even if you were going through that effort of trying to trick people into behaving immorally, that would weigh on your own karmic debt. And so you would think that you would see families like the Bushes or the Clintons, you think you'd see them suffering more. And, you know, I just, I didn't see that as a good explanation of objective morality. And then another explanation that is always talked about is that if you look at like the long picture of history, and that you look at certain societies, you could tell that like the more immoral they were, then then they collapsed or whatever. But to me, that's not a good explanation either, because if we're basing it on a certain society, like say for example Nazi Germany, like Nazi Germany, you could say they were immoral because they allowed that to happen. But then for you to prove that to be correct, you would have to show me a moral society that like thrived and lasted forever, when history shows us that basically all societies fall at some point. Take for example, you could look at the Native Americans as potentially the perfect example of a anarchic society, a society that was in tune with nature, and a society that was causing as little harm as possible, right? At least I think that's sometimes how we imagine the Native American society as being. And if that was the case, if they were of a higher moral standard, then why did they fall so easily to the Western world? So again, like those explanations of how morality is objective, um, or even reality, like we did a podcast episode of that objective morality is easier to prove than objective reality, right? Because no matter what your view of reality is, it would seem that people should be able to come to terms on some basic objective morals that we could all agree upon. For example, no murder, no stealing, no rape, all of those basic things, that we could all come to agreement with that easier than we could come to agreement with is reality objective or not. So I went through a long time of mulling this over in my mind, and what I'd like to do right now, I'm going to share my screen just for the heck of it, kind of like getting used to this StreamYard thing. I've used it before, but practice makes perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and share my window of what I was writing. Interesting. Why does it not show up? That was weird. Oh, okay. There we go. All right. This is from my first episode. I was wrong. And we're talking about objective morality versus subjective. And actually, right now, we're just going to talk about the terms objective versus subjective. Okay, it says I added it to the screen, but I don't see it yet. There we go. There we go. All right. So, objective. So this is pretty interesting. I'm going to have like, eventually I'm going to have little sections for this live stream where it's like conspiracy heresy, and we're going to talk about conspiracies, or it'll be definitio vocabularum, right? Which means define your terms. And, when you really look into the definition of things, it very much changes how you view what you're talking about, what you're saying. And my ultimate goal with not only this live stream, but also my website, naturaluniversalspirit.com, is to show people that like the language we use, there isn't necessarily a good and a bad. I would say it's more of a true and a false. But with each term, it seems that there is a positive sense of the term instead of like always completely thinking that it's negative. And I think if we can step into that space of, not so much this is bad and this is good, but that like this is how this is used to help people. This is how this is used to harm people. But the term in itself almost always seems to have a positive connotation, and we will explore that more as we go through to see if that fits with everything. But let's go to objective. Okay, so the definition of objective: expressing or dealing with facts or conditions as perceived without distortion by personal feelings, prejudices, or interpretations. An objective history of the war. Do you think you've ever seen an objective history of any war? Probably not. Um, of a test limited to choices of fixed alternatives and reducing subjective factors to a minimum. Each question on the objective test requires the selection of the correct answer from among several choices. All right, and this is the one, number 2, I think the one that fits the most to what we're looking at. Of, relating to, or being an object, phenomenon, or condition in the realm of sensible experience, independent of individual thought and perceptible by all observers, having reality independent of the mind. Now, I don't know if you can see where that becomes problematic, especially if you buy into the Hermetic principles of all is mind. Then does anything exist outside of the mind? Now, people will say that, oh, well, this is saying that we're talking about each individual's mind, each individual's independent mind. So that means that if I see the sun rising and you see the sun rising and that person sees the sun rising, then we can all come to an agreement that the sun is rising. But that, to me, makes objective closer to consensus. We're all agreeing that we see the same thing, right? Now, I'm a very spiritual person, and a lot of, again, with the natural universal spirit, the goal is to lead people to a spiritual development through their thinking faculties, right? So through um, logic and reason, but also including with that intuition, because you cannot separate the two. You have to use your intuition to come to a conclusion of the data that you're looking at. And whatever your intuition is may make you reach a different conclusion than what I reach. So, but I think that as we go through the process of thinking, that thinking is actually part of a spiritual process, and that that spiritual process is where we need to get people to. So I'm kind of going off track a little bit on that, but we'll come back to that at another time. But objective: of, relating to, or being an object, phenomenon, uh, or condition in the realm of sensible experience. So we can sense it and experience it through our senses, independent of individual thought and perceptible by all observers, having reality independent of the mind. Again, how do we know if anything is independent of the mind? And again, if you buy into the Hermetic principles of all is mind, which is the first principle, then nothing exists outside of the mind. And I guess that would make nothing objective. Or that would make nothing objective, right? Now, I don't necessarily buy into that, but I'm just pointing out to you that when you get into these definitions of what's objective and what's subjective, that it's a little bit more difficult to say, oh yes, that's objectively correct all the time. In the terms of objective morality, even we could say a basic tenet of anarchy and natural law is do no harm, and also self-defense. So the non-aggression principle and the self-defense principle. Well, if someone steals from you and you decide to defend yourself, what level of defense are you allowed to use, right? I mean, if you've been violated, are you allowed to kill somebody because they stole from you? Are you allowed to kill someone because they assaulted your sister, your mother? this now becomes subjective pretty quickly. So I do want to read the definition of subjective as well. Subjective, of relating to or constituting a subject, such as A, obsolete, of relating to or characteristic of one that is a subject, especially in lack of freedom or action or in submissiveness. So if you're subject to somebody, right? Of or relating to the essential being of that which has substance, qualities, attributes, or relations. Characteristic of or belonging to reality as perceived rather than as independent of mind. So again, is this something that you are perceiving, or is it independent of your mind? How do you get anything independent of the mind? Again, this would come down to consensus. What I was going to say about the spirit realm is that, as you develop these spiritual faculties, you may see things that most people don't see, right? You may come to an awareness, even in our senses, we have limited range of hearing, limited range of vision. And so if you get into the realm of where you've tapped into that spiritual side of yourself and you're able to have some clairvoyance, now you're seeing things that most people can't see. Are those things objective? I would think that they are probably objective, but how that is ever proven, I don't know if it's possible. And I think that is part of the mystery of life, and it's what makes life so interesting. And it's what causes me to constantly say I was wrong and have to rethink some of these things. Now, in saying that, I can't prove that reality or morality is objective, does that take away from the idea of do no harm? And I don't think that it does. Um, hey, Kristen Welch. Good morning. Good to see you. I swear, you guys, everything I do on here, it takes like a second, and I don't know why. Might have to hit up Comcast and tell them to improve my service. Spend a little more money to those bastards. But yeah, so morality, this is what I came to in that whole thought process. I'm like, I started getting into the process of how we think. And there is a dualism to the world that we see, right? This again harkens to the 7 Hermetic principles, right? You start off with the all is mind, which is like a unifying principle, but then it goes to this split, right? Correspondence, polarity, vibration, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. You get this, zeros and ones, right? Left brain, right brain, black or white, right or wrong. This is the process by which we see the world. This is our discernment process. This is our morality. This is our conscience, right? The angel and the devil on your shoulder, right? So it's a dualism, right? And the whole thing with the Hermetic principle is that these paradoxes or these dualities will be resolved at some point. And so what I came to understand is through this duality that we experience, which I do think, again, through consensus, you could believe that exists objectively. I think most people, even if you don't have a moral compass, well, maybe if you don't, maybe if you're a psychopath, you don't. But even a psychopath, it would seem that they have that function in their mind of up or down, left or right, go or don't go, right? There's that basic process. And again, zeros and ones, the binary system. This is what runs all computers, right? So you tie that in. So this system exists. And then through that system, what do? We discern, and then we take an action, or we, do something. We apply some type of action to the discernment that we've used. And so from what I understood then is that since that process is real, since that process is objective, or it seems like it would be objective, as close as possible to being objective, there would be a huge consensus that that process exists, then there is a left and right. There is a black and white. There is a right and wrong. And that is where I came to understanding that, morality does exist. There is a right and a wrong. Now, is that right and wrong going to be the same for everybody? No. So from what my understanding is that the morality itself, the process of morality, is what's important. It's not objective morality. It's not telling people this is how you be moral. It's telling people be moral, which means go through that process, go through that discernment process. You have to get into a state where you are using your discernment. If you're using your discernment, that is morality. If it's immoral, it would be that you didn't use your discernment at all, and you just made a decision, based on some other impulse, right? But the important aspect of what we need to get people to is to think about morality and to start using their discernment. And I believe that discernment is where our sense of freedom and free will derives from. The fact that, we are made and we're special as humans in that we can discern and we can then create things. Going back to that definition of objective, and they talk about phenomenon, right? Phenomenon, it means something that exists, right? It's and you could compare it to noumenon, right? A noumenon is something that only exists in the mind, right? So and we'll get into this a lot, but the name natural universal spirit, which I call the nus, is, I had someone I was talking about, this is my vision or my word for what God is, the way, the great spirit, the all, right? This is the nus. It's the natural universal spirit. It's all amongst us. It's right here. I can breathe it in. It's been called prana, right? This is like right here. God is right here with us at all times. Breath translates to spirit, right? The original meaning of the word is spirit. And so someone said, do you mean nous, right? N-O-U-S. And I was like, no, like what's nous? Well, it turns out nous is the mind of God. Ultimately, it's like that all is mind. And people have envisioned it as like this ring around all of these, rings that go inside of it, similar to the Natural Freedom League logo you see spinning up here, which was really based on this design. I didn't know it was called the nous. The outer ring would be called the nous. This would be what people considered the realm of all things possible, the realms of ideas. And this noumenon is where we as humans, because we have that process of discernment and that ability to create, we can pull things from the noumenon, from the nous, from the noosphere. We can pull it down and we can manifest it here, right? And then when you manifest it, it becomes a phenomenon because I can see it, you can see it, Green Mountain Girl can see it, Kristen can see it, right? So now it becomes a phenomenon, right? But I'm going to tie that into this one more thought, and I'll probably keep this pretty short for today. I would like to expand on this podcast, just so you guys know, or this live stream. So at some point, I am interested in sharing the link with you guys and inviting you in. I may even try that today if you guys wanted to like hop on in here and say hey, say what's up to me. Um, I'd have to figure out how to do that. So, but I think I do know how to. I would just need the link. But anyway, the point I was going to make, though, in terms of phenomenon and noumenon, okay? So phenomenon is something that exists that we can all see, and noumenon is something that exists in the mind, okay? And I was walking at the park the other day, and my 5-year-old was in front of me, jumping in puddles and just having a great time. And this older couple walked by me, and they were walking their dog. And they were just looking at my son in amazement at his youth. And the old man commented, he said, yeah, I can't even imagine, wanting to jump in puddles like that, and I was like, yeah, it's it goes quick or whatever, something like that, small talk. And I said, have a good morning. And it dawned on me, and I know people have thought of this before, but why do we say good morning, right? Like morning, like you're mourning somebody. And what I had the epiphany of is that this realm of earth is the realm of death. Now, that's not meant to be negative or dark, right? But that good morning, the good morning is like we're all mourning because we understand that this is the realm of death. This is the realm where we come to experience death as a real thing. But in reality, it's the illusion, right? What the word Maya, which was the world, translates to illusion. So in the spirit realm, there is no death. That energy just goes on forever, and we come here for one reason or another to experience death as a real thing, which would intensify feeling and emotion, and it would stimulate growth to be in that realm. And what we think of as evil is actually just to live backwards, right? So instead of living and following what we see in nature, right? The sun rising every day and then setting, right? The sun is born again every day. We wake up every day and we go to bed at night. Like this whole process is about living and dying and raising yourself, right? And if you get stuck into this illusion too much, now you're living backwards, which again is evil. It appears as evil to us. We define it as evil, and we are afraid of it, and we lash out against it. But in reality, it's just people getting stuck in this material world, thinking it's the real thing, thinking that phenomenon is objectively real, right? When in reality, all of the things here on this earth are fleeting and will go away. And that's not to disregard matter. I think that the material world is important, and it goes together hand in hand. But again, back to the Hermetic principles, if you believe that everything is mind, then you would believe that this realm manifests from that spirit and exists for some period of time, but ultimately returns back to whatever original form of matter it may have been in. We've got a few comments here. John Cox, he says, hey John, a good description of this I feel would be the book Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. Thank you, John. I have heard of Neville Goddard. I don't think I've read a lot of his stuff, but I do think I added one of his audiobooks to a playlist of mine. And I believe that I saw Terrence McKenna talking about him. I don't know if they worked together, but I will definitely check that out. Thank you for the recommendation. Kristen, good friend Kristen, she's been on the Natural Freedom League podcast. She's a warrior out there. Words/language fucking matter. Yes, they do. Pardon my language. And also, spelling is spell casting. Yes, that's right. Right. And broadcasting is casting that spell broadly. Right. And, you know, we need to, I agree with everything that Kristen is saying, that, and this is what's led me to this live stream. It's like words matter. What we say matters. So one article I'm writing right now, and we get into this in the next few weeks, but is reclaiming government. Right. Government means mind control. So I was going around saying all government is immoral, but that's not true. Self-government, self-mind control is the way to be moral. So government is the way that you discern. You use mind control. You have to control your mind. So I understand what people are saying when they go around saying that government is immoral, because they're talking about the institution of government as we know it today. But if we go around saying mind control is immoral, you're actually telling people don't control your own mind, right? And I won't say you're actually saying that, but I mean, it can be construed that way. It could come through that way. And why not have that deeper understanding that there's moral mind control, which is where you control your own mind, or when you um, for example, control the mind of your children. And people don't like to use that word, right? But I believe in no euphemisms, right? Control, you are in control of your children. When I look at nature, I do see an inherent authority that a parent has over a child. You authored that child, you're responsible for that child. At certain times, you do have to take control of their behavior, and it can be done in a moral way. Um, but that article I've been writing on, a lot of these articles I've been writing have been taking me a lot longer than I wished, because sometimes you get writing and then you read it and then you add more. It's like I got to find a way to cut it off. But that one's almost done. I'll present it soon on my Substack, and then we can talk about it again on another Monday morning live stream. Green Mountain Girl has a comment. Consensus is a form of consent to a particular reality. While the sun is rising on one part of the earth, it is setting in another. Exactly. Consensus is a form of consent. Interesting. Again, you got to love these words. Breaking them down. I mean, it's really fascinating. I'll tell you guys another one before I let you go. But, is the word freedom, right? Freedom is actually the definition. I'll get as close as I can. I won't look it up, but it's the ability to do and act without hindrance, right? And so, we have a group we're called Freedom Under Natural Law. We have our conference, and it's like, well, wait a minute. If you're saying you're under natural law, then you don't really have freedom, right? So it's like a limited form of freedom under natural law, right? Which technically, based on the definition, is not freedom. So what is this thing that we call freedom actually? And from what I've come to, and this is not just my own idea, this is also from ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita, but true freedom, true connection to God and to, um, natural law is service, right? Which is kind of ironic that you could go around saying that freedom is service, freedom is servitude, or you could be extreme and you could say freedom is slavery. But no, I wouldn't look at it that way. I would look at it as that once you are fully aware that the Nus, God, the Great Spirit is real, and you realize that everyone is a part of that spirit, um, then you see God in everything and everyone, and you become of service to that, and that is true freedom, or the closest thing that we can get to it. Jason Ness, thank you for your comment, sir. He says free will within the realm of cause and effect. Exactly, I agree with you. My only point that I'm making is that freedom, the true definition of freedom, means without hindrance. So to be completely without hindrance, I don't think we can. I don't even know if we can even imagine what that would look like. And I have no problem with using the word and understanding that it's freedom with it's free will within the realm of cause and effects, of course. But it's just interesting to think about that true freedom, because one thought process for me was, well, true freedom is when you die, but even that we don't know, right? So again, I think that freedom is sort of like once you connect to that all is mind and you tap into that energy and that understanding and belief, that then that is a sense of freedom. But I also have this idea in my mind that if we all got to that point where we were back in that unity consciousness, that then the whole thing would start over. Because once you're in that oneness of God, and everything, and then you're like, well, what do I do with this all? Well, now I create. I allow creation to go and let it create into whatever infinite possibilities are in the new sphere, are in the noumena. All of those things be created, and here's this realm of earth where we can come and actually bring these things into manifestation in what appears to be a material form. And so yeah, so I find it all as very, very beautiful. I'm a very optimistic person, and I'm really appreciative of y'all joining me today. I like this time. This should work well. Monday mornings, 9:30. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short today, but I will have more content in the future, and I will be prepared to share the invite link and have you guys come on and chat with me and go through some of these ideas. A lot of things I want to focus on. Health freedom movement. I feel like we need to bring the health freedom movement back. I feel like the pandemic kind of derailed the health freedom movement in a weird way. We were making a lot of progress in terms of exposing the whole system, not just one product that everyone's focused on now. So, yeah, I'd like to get a lot of the health freedom people in here, hopefully. A lot of the homeschool moms and stuff like that. I think this would be a good opportunity to chat with you guys and see how we can kind of let people know that, hey, this whole 2020 nonsense, there was a big buildup to that, and we all were there fighting it and trying to warn people what was happening. And now I see people in the truth community who are just talking about the newest product and not necessarily aware that all the products are problematic. Another thing I want to talk about is the assumed name certificate. which is a way of registering your legal name, and through doing that, separating yourself from the system and operating, operating your legal name legally, but also reconnecting your true self to the all, the Nus, God. So I want to get into that. I think that'd be interesting for people to explore. Also, I called today devotion. Devotion is my the I guess it's a virtue that I'm going to be focusing on for the next month. And here I have the definition of devotion. So why don't we look at that? I will present. Let me see here. Thank you for being patient while I work through this stuff. Present. I'm going to share my screen. Share my screen. Okay. So we're going to go to devotion. Let's share this. Excuse me. Okay. Let's add the stream. And let's look at the word devotion. What happened? Okay. Wow, everything moving so slow for me on this end. Okay, devotion. A religious fervor, piety, an act of prayer or private worship, usually used in plural. A religious exercise or practice other than the regular corporate worship of a congregation. Interesting. 2, the act of dedicating something to a cause, enterprise, or activity. The act of devoting. So let's look up devoting. Interesting how it's devote, right? And vote means to vow. So you're taking a vow. So if you devote, it's kind of weird, right? Like you're taking a vow away. Devote, to commit by a solemn act. To give over or direct time, money, effort, etc. to a cause, enterprise, or activity. So, why am I focused on devotion? Well, it's just part of a program that I'm following, and they give you like a monthly virtue to follow. So, devotion, what am I devoted to? I'm devoted to the truth, and I'm devoted to getting closer to the truth as much as possible and committing to that my whole life. I'm devoted to my family and helping them to discover truth as well and to lead by example. And I'm going to be more devoted to my content creation. And this live stream is part of that. So, as I said before, I appreciate you all. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to say for today, for Mondays, the daily what does it say, process that they focus on Mondays is speech. Only what has purpose and meaning should fall from the lips of someone who strives for higher development. All talking for the sake of it, to pass the time, for instance, is harmful in this regard. Ordinary conversation in which people chat away aimlessly should be avoided, but neither should we distance ourselves from engaging with others. Precisely in daily exchanges, speech should gradually become more meaningful. We can engage in conversation with everyone, but do so thoughtfully with careful reflection. Never speak without cause. Gladly fall silent. We should try to speak neither too much nor too little. First, listen calmly, then engage with what you hear. This exercise is also called right speech. So they have one of those for each day. Monday, it's right speech, and I'll let you guys know what the other ones are on a different episode. Okay. I was going to get into how, the other thing I wanted to say is it's officially the new year, right? This is like the real new year, or like April 1st, supposedly, right? It's the first day of spring today. It's also a new moon, right? So, I don't know, light a candle, set your devotions. It's a powerful time of the year. Spring is coming. Do some spring cleaning. That's something I need to do. Start a new project. Set a devotion. It's good to set a devotion on the new moon. Focus on that. Build it up to the full moon. It's good to get into a habit of that. I've been focusing a lot more on like the sunrise, the moonrise, things like that. Yeah, Will Keller. Yeah, oh yes. Yeah, brother. And he also says, season of sovereignty. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is known as the season of sacrifice, 322, right? And season of sacrifice to the dark occult. We took that, Natural Freedom League took that, flipped it, smacked it up, flipped it, rubbed it down, turned it into season of sovereignty, right? Where we focus on ruling ourselves, right? Like being ruled by natural law, paying due to the true sovereign, which is natural law, which is God, which we shouldn't be afraid to talk about, the creator. But yes, season of sovereignty. So happy new year to everybody. I guess Persians, this is their holiday, or this is their new year too. Anybody else know what other New Year's it is? Is it the Jewish New Year? My daughter was like, I thought the Lunar New Year was in February. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. But this is like, according to the constellations, right? Aries comes first, right? And did you know that Aries is the ram? Starts up here, right? Arise, Aries, arise, right? So it's kind of appropriate that I have my new logo here with the brain, the I was wrong brain, right? Where's it at here? I click on it and it takes like a few minutes to show it. I don't know if it shows it to you guys right away. There it is. I was wrong. Boom, I made that logo myself. Made that logo myself. I mean, it's not really that impressive, but okay. Trust me, you guys, I will get better at this. Oh yeah, I have a couple of things that I've saved over the last few days. So this meme. The psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims with delight. Yes. I had a friend who was schizophrenic, and he came to visit me. I hadn't seen him in a while, and he claimed he was sober, but he seemed like he was high on something. But he claimed he had been meditating at some Buddhist monastery for like a few months and hadn't like spoken in a few months, and he was like totally sober. And then we smoked some weed, and like he went into his schizophrenic state and started explaining it to me and telling me that he could see all these spirits. And it was weird. I mean, I probably was like 20 years old. I remember telling him, well, maybe you're seeing something that's actually there and I just can't see it, and I was trying to say that to calm him down, but it was actually what I believe, is that there probably are people who can tap into things that we can't see, and we call them schizophrenic, right? We don't um we don't nurture that ability. So part of my goal here is to, nurture that ability in everybody and help people to get to a point where we can develop that. And again, that'll be through the Natural Universal Spirit website, which again, I'm still working on and not really understanding why it's not showing up when I type in the URL. But okay, another meme that I saw, I believe I just saw this one today. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself, right? Everyone wants to change, everyone wants to save the world, but nobody wants to die. This all starts from changing ourselves. And so how do we get people into a space where they want to change themselves, and then offer them materials and a way to get there, to open their mind, to receive new information, and to expand their consciousness, right? One last one. From John Muir. I am losing precious days. I am degenerating into a machine for making money. I am learning nothing in this trivial world of men. I must break away and get out into the mountains to learn the news. Right? Now think about this. This is another theme that will come up. The nous is the realm of thoughts and the realm of all things that are possible, and probably also all things that have been, right? You could call it the Akashic Records. The nous is the name of it. And what do the people who love this material world want us to follow? They want us to follow the news, right? Instead of going north, east, south, west, they got us going north, east, west, south. NEWS, the news, not the noose. Don't go out there and connect to the noose. Just take this news that we give you. We'll give you this news. Like, what is a news, right? Like new information. It's like, why are we so obsessed with everything that's new? And then I thought there was nothing new under the NUS, aka nothing new under the sun. But they're going to tell us, oh, here's all this new stuff. Here's all the news. It's new. Did you know that it's new? You should know this because it's new, right? Why'd they call it the novel coronavirus, right? Because it's novel means new. News, nus, exactly. And that all came together not on purpose, okay? I came up with the nus, and then I found out about the noose. So it's one of those synchronicities, We all tap in, we all channel, we all pull that down from the new sphere. And so I'm going to leave you guys with this. Take a deep breath. You're supposed to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. What if we just taught kids that? Just breathing. It's healthier to breathe through your nose. Just do that throughout your day. Take a minute to take 3 deep breaths through your nose. That's where this all starts. The breath is spirit. The breath is our connection to the nus. So we need to be breathing correctly. My partners, Will Keller, people love new knowledge because their lack of truth in nature. It's trying to fill a void. Nothing new under the sun. That's right. Nothing new under the nus. Yes. All right, my folks. I love you. I appreciate the nose. That's right. Oh, Green Mountain Girl, tying it all together. The nose, the noose. Man, come on now. We're getting on to something here. All right. I'm going to see you guys for sure next Monday. You might see me hop on. You also might see me cut this video up and post it as little shorter videos. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And I'm going to take you out with our good friend, the Funky Father, Mike Mattingly, and his classic Jam, which is my favorite from his album, is, oh, you know what? I might not even have that. I have to have that on here. Do I not have that on here? Yeah, this is it. All right, you guys. I love you. Thank you. And I appreciate you. And we will talk to you on the flip side. Listen to some Funky Fathers.
Well, put your poison in a pill. May maim and injure, make you ill. Or now and then it's gonna kill. Experiments against the will. Yeah, why won't you just remain in silence? Yeah, why won't you just bow down in compliance? Yeah, every year they're adding more. In every shop, in every store. Or violate you at the core. Yeah, this intact they say endure. Yeah, why won't you just remain in silence? Yeah, why won't you just bow down in compliance? Yeah, why won't you give in to threats of violence? Yeah, why won't you just believe in the science? 'Cause I'm anti-intimidation, anti-dehumanization, anti-indoctrination, anti-sterilization, anti-segregation, anti-discrimination, anti-force injection. That's why I'm anti-vaccination. Coercion is weapon of choice. When that don't work, they bring in force. Or silence all dissenting voice. Or separate you from the source. Yeah, why won't you just remain in silence? Yeah, why won't you just bow down in compliance? Yeah, why won't you give in to threats of violence? Yeah, why don't you just believe in the science? Because I'm anti-intimidation, anti-dehumanization, anti-indoctrination, anti-sterilization, anti-segregation, anti-discrimination, anti-forced injection. That's why I'm anti-vaccination. Yeah, I'm anti-intimidation, anti-dehumanization, anti-indoctrination, anti-sterilization, anti-segregation, anti-discrimination, anti-forced injection. That's why I'm anti-vaccination.
The intention of Natural Freedom League is to expand the understanding of natural law, which is based on objective morality, and to expose the illegitimacy of the belief in authority, and thus the inherent immorality of all government.
We be the Natural Freedom League, cause we become no longer unvegan. We seek in the wisdom, and that's why we did come to this prison of prism, and that's why the beat thumps, and that's why we